You're now live on Fine Time.
Hello, party people. Hello, city people. It's your boy Dre, and I am here with a guest. I've been wanting to have him on for a while. His name is IdolismJ. What's up, Jay?
Yo, what's up, Andre? Thanks for having me on. Huge fan of Fine Time. Can't believe I finally get to be on it myself.
First time, long time.
As the old radio adage goes, first time, long time. Quick radio aside, the sports station here in Detroit used to have a thing where they'd be like, "Oh, first time, long time. Get this man a double," and they'd play a sound effect of just someone going,
I love it. That's great. I love radio shit. Gee, can you tell? I mean, you heard the show, right?
Yeah, we're both old radio people, so it flows through us.
Yes, I always think even podcast, I think of as a broadcast, right? Still. Thanks for joining me. I could think of nobody else I wanted to talk about this game with than you, which would be the fairly newly released Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. So this game came out, I want to say, the end of April. So as of this recording, maybe about 6-ish weeks ago.
Yeah.
And a fun hype cycle, per usual, as fighting games are, or a lot of games are, that introduce characters, right? Even Smash. I mean, I don't want to get into whether Smash is a fighting game or not. I guess most people consider it one. Same kind of hype cycle. Anyway, didn't really have the fanfare we expected it to have when it came out, or at least not the fanfare I expected it to have. A lot of weird things happened. Some very bizarre decisions were made in the process here. Yeah, and that hype cycle got cut a little short, and then the game came out, and I guess it has some good reviews, but sales wise and just general mind space not having the reception I don't think anyone expected.
I agree. I think we will look back on this game in maybe 5+ years as one of the biggest what in the hell happened moments.
Yeah,
because this game was looking like, as you said, the hype cycle for this was really, really big, and then the last quarter of that hype cycle, one for the history books. There's never been let's just say a fumble like that ever before.
Yeah, they fumbled the bag big time. This is crazy.
This is a dissection that we're gonna have to do here, because this is a historic one.
It's a lot. So yeah, I wanted to talk about this with you because you are a fighting game guy, and why don't you just tell the people about that real quick? It's always my least favorite question when people ask me when I get, "Hey, tell me about yourself," right? But say something. You're a fighting game guy.
My head's gigantic and I have a huge ego. So, so I've been, so Andre and I share a love for fighting games. I have been playing them competitively for probably about 15 years now, if not close to it. When Street Fighter IV came out, I started going to tournaments, and I have never really left going to tournaments. Okay. I've been a pretty well-known name in the fighting game community. I've been described as a B-level celebrity. I've had people who are more successful than me say I would go into a theoretical FGC Hall of Fame, so I'll take that one.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, people who know, they know. I am a person of decently good importance and influence. So right. I've been around the scene for a long time, and fighting games are probably my favorite games ever. If I'm playing something, I'm playing a fighting game. If I'm having a bad day, I'm making it worse by playing a fighting game.
All right. That's great to hear. I wanted to pick your brain on this because you're in this shit. You know what I mean? I just like fighting games because I was an old arcade head, so therefore I like fighting games because I went to the arcade, because of course I did. So that's kind of where I'm coming at it from. I just like to play them like I play any other game. You're up in that ass. So
yeah, and I think that's the perfect thing about this episode is that I'm in the shit and you're outside the shit, and we're both going to have a different perspective of kind of what went down with City of the Wolves.
Yes, that's exactly what I want to do here. So let's just get into it. So this was announced, if I remember correctly, well, I hope it's correct because that's what I wrote down at Evo 23, right?
Yeah, Evo 2023, I believe, was when they had that single graphic teaser. It was Rock Howard in the like alleyway, and I think it had, you know, Terry and Joe or something in the alleyway in the distance, and it said like, we're making a new Garo. I think that was at the time they referred to it as a new Garo.
Okay. You know, and you can tell me what you think about this. When you announce something at Evo, I feel like that comes with an expectation that it's going to be for a certain audience. Would you say that? Versus
I'd
like
say
a
that,
Capcom Fighting Collection, which is announced on like Nintendo Directs and shit like that.
Yeah,
right?
if you're at Evo, you are talking to the people who are the most in the shit, because, you know, who else? I mean, I guess it's Evo is really, really popular. I shouldn't sell it short, but like, if you want to target the fighting game people, there is literally no bigger stage in the world than Evo.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't watch a whole lot of fighting games played because, quite frankly, there's just not a whole lot of them I like to watch that way. You know, that's just not my level of like fighting game enthusiastness. I'll watch Street Fighter 6. I fucking love watching that game. I love playing that game. But that's about it for me. I think that's about where I stop. Do you remember what you thought when you first saw the graphics? Can we just start there? Just like very first like base impressions?
Extremely excited and surprised.
Okay.
Because Garo, like, you know, this, when I say that they refer to this as a Garo, they're specifically talking about the Fatal Fury offshoot sub-series, you could maybe say, Garo Mark of the Wolves, where it's Fatal Fury done kind of the same way that Third Strike was done, where it's a new setting in the future a little bit, new cast, new protagonist.
Yep.
And Garo is, to a certain generation, probably one of the defining SNK works for people. So it was kind of speechless, like seeing that, be like, oh my god, they're gonna do it. They're gonna bring back Garo after 20 plus years. Like people have been waiting for something like this to happen, because SNK has kind of just been the King of Fighters machine for so long.
I distinctly remember I was still pre-message board when that game came out, like IRC days on the internet, like talking about this game in chats and stuff. Like, and my arcade just didn't have it for some reason. I don't know why. They were just bad about it. So like I didn't get to play it till I got like a cheap Dreamcast copy or something.
Yeah, I played it on Dreamcast. Unlike you Coastal Elite over there, I'm from something called like a flyover state, so not exactly the greatest access to SNK releases. I played like Sam Show 1 and Sam Show 2 in arcades. That's about it.
Oh, really? Okay.
I don't think I ever saw a King of Fighters machine growing up.
Wow.
Many Neo Geo machines, but never something that like an MVS that had King of Fighters.
Okay, yeah. I remember we used to go bowling a lot when I was a kid, and every Saturday, and they had the Neo Geo from the jump. So I remember all those early games like Magician Lord and Nam 1975 and shit like that. And then it's just like, I remember the first time I saw Art of Fighting, and I saw that scaling in, zooming in, and zooming out. And this guy, what's that guy at the bar? Jack. He's like huge. He's like taking up the whole screen. And I'm like, what is this? Is this even possible? Jesus Christ. You know, like it blew my mind. So I've always been a Neo Geo person, and therefore, you know, all the stuff that comes with it, King of Fighters. By the time we got to Mark of the Wolves, though, like I said, my arcade didn't have it, and I wasn't like, it was kind of off-putting at first, the art style. I didn't like it as much as like previous Fatal Furies. I'll get into that in a bit. But like, I think I was just more into like, you know, can I confess something to you? I don't know how like the fighting game community feels about this game. I fucking love King of Fighters 99. That game is insane. It is one of the weirdest games I've ever played. It's so bizarre.
I don't think you won't get roasted over the coals for that. It's not one of the big ones people really care about. And I think maybe 99's biggest issue competitively is that that version, that's one of the Striker games, and if you're
it's the
just
first
gonna
Striker game,
if you're gonna play at one of the Striker games, I think people would choose a different version, like one of the ones that comes after. But I played 99 on Dreamcast. Like, that game is sick. It's just like, it's a competitively speaking and the scene speaking, I think it's just a game that kind of got lapped a little bit, but no one's gonna say anything bad about it.
I really like, I think like the one people go after is like 2002 or something like that.
It's
But
98 and 2K specifically.
Okay, yeah, I like 2000 a lot personally. It's a great game. Anyway, yeah, so that's kind of, I've always liked SNK, always been a Capcom person, that's always been like my number one, but like I've always had an affinity for this. So whether I really, played that much Mark of the Wolves back in the day, I was definitely looking forward to City of the Wolves. Did you have how much of a like SNK person have you been? Like in your life, like were you like basically in terms of like City of the Wolves, were you thinking like, oh, I hope we see this person or that person, or were you just like, whatever, I'll see what happens?
The hope for who would show up in City of the Wolves is interesting, because you could kind of just do the entire Mark of the Wolves roster and you wouldn't have seen them in 20 years, because like a lot of the last time you saw a lot of the Mark of the Wolves people was like Neo Geo Battle Coliseum. Like,
I love that game.
That's like Apology Hataru shows up there, where like Hataru sucks ass in Mark of the Wolves, but she's like top 1 or top 2 in Neo Geo Battle Coliseum. So like, outside of I always call him Wild Wolf Terry, because Maximum Impact 2 gave him you could play as the Garo version of Terry in Maximum Impact 2, and they called him Wild Wolf. And I'm like, God damn it, how do you keep making Terry so cool? You could be Terrence Bogard, or you could be Wild Wolf. Oh fuck, he's the Terry Bogart's the coolest fighting game character ever made. Like, you gotta respect it to the OGs.
Yeah, they keep putting it up, right? It keeps raising the cool factor.
SNK in general has like a hard time missing. They have like the greatest hit percentage across like any fighting game company. So you really didn't get to see any of these characters. I was just kind of excited to be like, sure, bring back all of Mark of the Wolves plus like 1 to 2 new people, and I'd be a pig in shit. Like, if I just got to see the Kim brothers back, I'd be happy.
Yeah. I really like those character designs, I think, is what you're hitting down on. Is that what I really appreciated about Mark of the Wolves? Part of this hype cycle was, typically nowadays with a fighting game, I would say, would it be fair to say that like Street Fighter 4 popularized like the theme song for like a fighting game? Would you say that?
Yes.
Okay, with Indestructible. Yeah.
I'd say it, and it's very funny because nowadays we love Indestructible. That's revisionist history.
Yes.
Indestructible in vanilla Street Fighter 4 was hated, partially because it played during the menu, so there was something kind of unavoidable about it. Like, anytime you went to the menu, the opening notes of Indestructible would play. That's a little annoying, but like, once Indestructible kind of went away, then people started to really appreciate just how good that song was.
It's great. I really like it. I liked it when it came out, and I like it now.
There was I went to Evo 2019, and during one of the commercial break interstitials, they had the in-house commentary do a couple karaoke sing-alongs that they led the crowd in. One was for the BB Tag, like Ruby song. You know the main one.
Yes,
but
I know
another one was they did Indestructible, and it's just like, I'm in Mandalay Bay belting those lyrics out at the top of my lungs. I was like, I knew I was like yelling down. I was like, pass me the fucking mic. I'm gonna go crazy on this. The thousands in Mandalay Bay are gonna hear me, because it's just like the theme song has become kind of a bigger thing to fighting games. Not every fighting game does this, but SNK ones since King of Fighters 14, they've had like a title track that it kind of becomes the iconic theme song. 14's was Burn to Fight, I believe, and that was a pretty decent track.
So. I like that one.
I like that track. I mean, a lot of, and again, SNK they never fail on character designs, they never fail on music.
I gotta say though, I'm not a big fan of the KOF 15 one. I don't like it that much.
I couldn't tell you what the 15 one is off the top of my head. I played a fair amount of 15, but like the 15 one it's there. I don't think there's anything bad with it, but it just doesn't stick in my mind.
Yeah, it's not great. So I wasn't expecting much from whatever they would do for City of the Wolves, rather. But there's a song. The theme song is called Chain Reaction. This shit bangs so hard. It's so good. It is the best. It is the best fighting game theme song. It is, to me. This is the best one I've ever heard.
You are 100% correct, Andre. This is the greatest fighting game theme song, if not fighting game song ever.
It's so good.
And the important thing is that we were teased for like a year on this song, because every teaser trailer or character announcement they would do for City of the Wolves, they would end every trailer with the chorus of Chain Reaction. I don't even think we knew what Chain Reaction was at the time, but they'd end it with this theme song. It's just like, oh my God, this is such a cool chorus.
It is.
I would like find people trying to figure out what the lyrics are, people trying to like get like a loop, like get a clean loop of it. Like there was a genuine like rabidness for like, what is this song?
Yeah.
Oh my fucking, like
it's
people
so
were like locked in because you had an amazing title track behind all of this promotion. This thing was on path to sell the game. People loved it that much.
Yeah, it's a great one. Definitely, if you were listening to this and you don't play much fighting games, not really planning on playing City of the Wolves, definitely go seek out Chain Reaction. It is a certified banger.
Yeah, I legitimately thought that like SNK could put this out as a single and it would chart. Like it's that good of a song. It's unbelievable what they did.
It is a piece of songwriting genius. Like no joke. It's crazy good.
When the song finally dropped, like the full version finally dropped, like it's 3 a.m. and I'm messaging Dre, be like, it's out, Dre, it's out, Dre, the full song's out.
It's out. You can hear it on the menu because the first beta came out and like it's playing on the menu. If you go to PS5, it just plays. Holy shit.
Like 15 minutes after that beta comes out, someone like put a rip of just like letting the menu rock for like 10 minutes and uploaded that to YouTube. And people were fucking crazy about this song.
Yeah, I still am. I love Chain
absolutely.
Reaction.
It hasn't lost its luster yet.
Not at all. Okay, so like probably I don't want to say last part of this hype cycle, but like definitely part of this whole thing was SNK put out this like $2.5 million prize pool for City of the Wolves at like their world championship thing. In retrospect, this seems a little desperate considering how this has gone. I mean, I'm sure they didn't obviously intend it that way, but like now it's like, here's all the money. Please play City of the Wolves.
Yeah, this feels desperate in retrospect. I can tell you pretty confidently, and like we'll put a pin in this because we're gonna have a long conversation that's gonna cycle back to this. I have this number does not shock me in the slightest.
No,
because they like Capcom Cup, the big Street Fighter tournament that they've been doing for years now. Like that started showing up numbers like $1 million prize pool, and I think maybe even the last one showed up with like a $2 million. I can't remember now because I wasn't paying attention, but like. Prize pools have started to increase to roughly this. Seeing that attached to an SNK franchise, that's got a bit of a weird sticker shock to it. But the further we go and the more we kind of discuss the last quarter of this hype cycle, the more it will maybe make sense why that number is so big.
Yeah, because it shocked even me because it's like you just said. Capcom had the big thing with the $1 million, Street Fighter 6 thing. I was like, whoa, because that's not usually money that fighting game tournaments get. So to even go well above beyond that was insane. But yeah, we'll probably come back to that. before we move on to the bad part of the hype cycle, I want to talk a little bit with you about SNK over the last 10 years, like their graphics, like, and like their forays into 3D. Obviously, there's stuff like Maximum Impact and stuff in the 2000s, and of course, way before that, like the Neo Geo 64 and shit. But you know, since I would say King of Fighters 14. Now, here's the thing about 14. I did not know that was considered like dog shit. Now, like, don't get me wrong. I never thought like King of Fighters 14 looked great, but to me, that was exactly what I expected that game to look like. For an SNK game in like 2016, there hasn't been a King of Fighters in 6 years. When was 13? 2010, I think.
It was 2010, I believe.
Yeah.
Or maybe 2011.
Maybe.
I'm trying to place myself in exactly what college apartment I was in when I bought it and working my way back from there. But
see, I feel like I was unemployed, which would be 2011. So it may be 2011.
Sense memory through video games.
Basically. Yeah, I do that a lot with like placing stuff in time. But yeah,
me too.
I remember when this came out, and it's like, yeah, okay, it's not going to look great. Like I never expected it to be. I expected the gameplay to be great. And King of Fighters 14 is a game I really like, but that's neither here nor there. It feels like its reputation worsened over time. I feel like it was kind of accepted by most people, but now with like seeing like King of Fighters 15, Samurai Showdown and shit, and even like the SNK heroines and stuff, I feel like people look back on that, it's like, ew. Do you remember how you felt, or maybe even the fighting game community felt about 14's like visuals at the time? Because I don't.
So when 14 was first announced, that first trailer, it immediately caught a metric crock of shit for looking like a PS2 game.
Okay.
And this is like my expertise. I've deep dived into kind of what this whole era of SNK was. We'll promote it at the end of the video or at the end of the pod. I have a video that details pretty much the entirety of kind of what went down around this time.
Absolutely. I'll put that link in the description, everybody, for that video.
It's not to toot my own horn. It's a really good video for understanding what happened with this era of King of Fighters and how it relates to SNK. 14 looked kind of like dog liquid. It was bad. Mm-hmm. And there's a very good reason why it was bad. And that's because SNK made what I guess you would consider the wrong bet earlier on in the 7th gen console time. They made King of Fighters 12, which is some of the most beautiful high definition pixel graphics you'll ever see. Literally, I do not think they've ever been topped. And the smallest roster in any King of Fighters ever. Yeah. Because they financially and physically could not make enough characters in that style. And so King of Fighters 12, it's never even been ported to PC. It's like a Kusoge classic. Like, you still have to have the original discs to play that game.
Yeah, I remember Ven had 12 and he was telling me about it, and he's like, bro, there's not even a boss. Like, there's not even there's nothing in this game.
It is a museum with like 3 exhibits. The three most beautiful exhibits you've ever seen, but it is 3 exhibits. Mm-hmm. Like, that game is both sensational looking and held together with spit. Yeah. So they kind of saved it by making King of Fighters 13, which took half of the work they already did with King of Fighters 12, and then they made the other half of the game, more or less. And King of Fighters 13 is pretty heavily revered as one of the better King of Fighters.
I like it a lot.
I love it. It was the first King of Fighters I took seriously. I love that game dearly. I think it's phenomenal. But that game also has a bit of a reputation problem, because people who don't know about King of Fighters games, they look at that game and they go, why can't every game look like King of Fighters 13? Why can't King of Fighters 14 look like King of Fighters 13? And even with kind of absorbing all of the work they did with King of Fighters 12 to make King of Fighters 13, if you know how King of Fighters, the past 25 King of Fighters work, there are very noticeable shortcuts and shortcomings to 13 that make that game very different than any other King of Fighters. Like, the fact that Kyo's stand B does not have a close proximity version, and he could just do 3 of them and they link in a special cancel. That's not in any other King of Fighters.
It's insane.
It's insane. It's like, it's one of those things where, like, if you saw that, you're like, yeah, you do 3 lights into a special combo. What's so different about that? But you put that in front of a King of Fighters player, they're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a really crazy game. I love it for all its craziness, but as a King of Fighters, it still has a lot of issues. So SNK had spent all this time and all this money and just like focusing on these high definition pixel graphics that could never be superseded, and now they're in 8th gen and they cannot do that a third time. There's just no way. So now they are making King of Fighters 14 with kind of their first attempts at 3D modeling, and the original version of 14 looked like doo-doo. There was a 1.1 like patch that added additional shaders that made it a little bit better, because it was
fixed some faces too. I think faces.
I don't think they never really fixed the faces.
Well, not fixed. I mean, like, but, I feel like they did a little bit of something.
They applied shaders, because like the 1.0 version of that game might as well have been like pre-texture mapped Virtua Fighter 1.
Yeah, like there weren't shaders. Like,
they just didn't have it. And so like that game has kind of notoriously got it in the teeth really bad, because it had to follow 13, the most beautiful pixel game you've ever seen, and this game looks like a PS2 game. And my hot take is that King of Fighters 14 looks amazing. Because even though it looks like a PS2 game, they made that game animate so well, where every character in that game looks like they are animating the way they should as a King of Fighters character. And I won't say the same for Street Fighter V, which is why I think King of Fighters 14 looks better than Street Fighter V. Street Fighter V is a better looking game, but those animations are nowhere near what they should be.
You know what? I think I'm with you on this hot take. I think I'm with you here.
I appreciate
that. I really like. Well, look, I have no love for Street Fighter V. That is not a game.
Few do. That this is kind of beaten up on a horse that fell over.
Yeah, like years and years ago. But yeah, I know. You know what I really do like about King of Fighters 14 is the backgrounds. I think every background hits. Like. Yeah. They're really good.
The aquarium background is my favorite one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Truck one's great too.
Yeah, I like them all. I think it's really good stuff. I think it's a fun boss in that game. I love that he's sitting there crying at some old dog movie in that one cutscene. That's funny. I really love the roster of 14.
It's one of the best rosters.
It's so good.
They
have
really
so many new people. I love
so
new
many
people.
Newcomers.
If you can't tell, I'm with like the Street Fighter 3 approach of like throw everything out. I love when games do that. So yeah.
14 has I think 14 has the most amount of newcomers ever put into a King of Fighters. I could be wrong on that, but like I don't know how I couldn't.
I can't think of another game that has that many.
It was tragic getting close to the end of King of Fighters 14's like life cycle, and the SNK players at the time, as they were kind of ready for the next game, they're like, there's just no chance we're going to get the 14 newcomers in another game. Like we'll get some, but there were just too many new amazing characters put into 14 that by volume, you just can't get them all into another game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why like I think King of Fighters 15 is a better game, but a less interesting roster for sure.
Yeah,
in my opinion. I want to talk about Samurai Showdown real quick, because this is not a game I played when it came out. I wasn't particularly interested. I actually got it like I think last year or something for like $5 or whatever it was on like PSN at the time. And I want to talk about it briefly, just because compared to like King of Fighters 14 just a few years prior, and then you get the Samurai Showdown, which looks, now they're on something, in my opinion. This game looks crazy good. Like to bring that to, look, there's been other attempts at Samurai Showdown with like 3D graphics, which I mean, yuck. But like this one actually just being a 2D fighter and having this sort of brushstroke kind of thing going on. I love that it's rated mature and they didn't wimp out. It's great. I like the game. It's not a game I love. Samurai Showdown in the past has never been something I've like. It's just been like, oh, this looks cool. I like pressing the buttons. I like cutting the vein and the blood goes psh, and then I move on to the next cabinet. And Samurai Shodown has never been something I've like been in the shit for, but I do like Samurai Shodown 19 visually and just like, pressing some buttons.
Yeah, that was the first game where it's like, okay, 14 was the sacrificial child. They needed to cut their teeth on something, and then Samurai Shodown 7 or Samurai Shodown 19, that was the time where it's like, oh wait, they have learned. Like they're now about to start cooking. It has a distinct style. It's got like this kind of cross-hatched overlay effect to it. You get a lot of those kind of like aggressive monotone monocolor backgrounds, or like interstitials during like the supers. Like there's a distinct art style and graphical prowess that shows up in Samurai Shodown 7 that couldn't be there in 14. I thought like gameplay wise, I don't care for that game that much. It feels like someone who doesn't play Samurai Shodown looked at Samurai Shodown and said, oh, this is what the game is about, and they kind of got it wrong. But they were mostly still like understood. They got the idea of what Samurai Shodown is, but not the nuance of what makes that game cool. But it still looks great. It was at the time, it was a great showing for SNK.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely gameplay wise. I think they have the spirit, like it's poke heavy, right? Like it's like, that to me, that's the nucleus of Samurai Shodown. Pokes and like kind of slow moving, like, they didn't try to like quote unquote jazz it up in some sort of way that felt like completely, something else, like some Guilty Gear type shit. It just it feels like Samurai Shodown, but it also doesn't at the same time. It's weird.
Yeah, it's got this. It is kind of a reset game because like Samurai Shodown's 4, 5 special, and 6, those are a little more whackety smackety in terms of all of their mechanics, but
4 is my favorite, by the way.
They still work really well. Like I love 5 special and I can get behind 6. And I think that maybe the problem with Samurai Shodown 7 is that they look at those games and they are correct. Like Samurai Shodown is this poke heavy, like high damage, high risk, high reward game, but those games still can be fast. They can be really slow and they can be really fast. And Samurai Shodown feels like a game where if you're not whiff punishing with the world's biggest fuck you button, like your character just doesn't play the game very well. Because I like when that game came out, I picked up Woo and I was like, this is awesome. Glasses girl with like a shield. This is everything I ever want. The next 5 years of that game, she is bottom 2. She does not work properly. She is a character archetype that will never work in this game.
No, there's definitely very privileged characters in Samurai Shodown. Even in I haven't even played it that much, and I can tell, like, oh.
There's haves and have-nots in that game. There's pretty definitive haves and have-nots. And all the characters I think that are cool are have-nots.
That's what sucks, right? Because obviously that's people ask like, oh, how do I get into fighting games? It's like you see a cool character and then you play that character. That's literally it. I saw Ken when I saw Ken in Street Fighter 2. It's like, okay, I guess I'm playing Ken now. That's it. It's all that happens.
I'm 15 years deep in the community. I've played a variety of tournaments. I've won a couple small ones even. That mentality never goes away. I still look at a game and I'm like, you're the cool one. I'm going to learn how to play you.
Yeah. Like in Street Fighter 6, I was like, I don't care if Manon is like the biggest one-trick pony of all time. I love this chick and I'm playing her. That's all there is to it. Yeah. I love it.
It'd be great if she gets added to the character select screen one of these days.
It's okay. Be nice?
In Street Fighter 6, I play Lily, so it's like,
dude.
I'm also on the bench being like, can I be in this game yet?
Vin plays Lily as well, so the two of y'all.
Our character would be so good in any other Street Fighter other than 6.
Oh my god, yeah, she just like, oh man, yeah. I mean, she got a little better. She has that one good button. What is it?
She crouch heavy punch is her one good button. She's a one button character. That thing slices, dices, does your taxes for you. It's the only button you need to press.
To be fair,
the only button she has.
It's a great button.
It's a great button.
It's a great button. Okay, back to City of the Wolves. So, in typical fighting game hype cycle fashion, right? SNK is revealing these characters every month with these teaser trailers and combo videos, and not combo videos, but you know what I mean, showing a couple things they're
showing combos, they're showing specials, they're showing their supers, and they're showing what we would soon learn is their hidden gears, their like final hidden super dupers, if you will, and that's where the trailer plays. You get the wee, and then the song starts hitting in. You're like, yeah, this is the greatest thing ever.
And it's like, oh shit, yeah. When they start doing their big super, then the chain reaction kicks in.
Yeah, chain reaction kicks in. I wanted a mod of the game, and someone explained that they can't do this, but I was like, how do we mod this game so that when someone does their hidden gear, that sound effect kicks in and the soundtrack just starts with chain reaction, like in game. We need to be able to mod this. And I got a number of modding friends. They're like, it doesn't work like that. But I was like, man, these trailers were that good. Like they had such a distinct, they were patterned to a science. They ended on the greatest thing ever, chain reaction. And as we were discussing with SNK in their 3D foray, they looked great.
They did.
They really were selling that like City of the Wolves has this beautiful continuation of their 3D work. It's got this kind of like pop art, comic halftone look going on. There's some like interesting cross hatching shading again. Like the game was really, really showing off in positive light during a lot of this hype cycle.
Absolutely. And I had nothing but good thoughts about it up until a point.
Up until a point.
So basically, it all sort of grinds to a halt when I would say 6 to 8 weeks before the game came out, I think in February, they reveal fucking Cristiano Ronaldo as a character in the game. And I'm sure a segment of our audience is hearing about this for the first time. And I need to assure you that this is not a joke. The guy who plays soccer is in Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. Like, straight up.
Yes. Now, the thing that is really important about this is that they teased that a month before they revealed him.
Yeah.
There was this rogue teaser trailer for CR7, which is the nickname of Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah.
It's like a CR7 collab with City of the Wolves. And at that point, there wasn't any real giveaway other than like, oh, okay, is it going to be like some football alternate costumes?
That's what I thought.
But people who kind of know the state of SNK were like, oh no, is he going to be a character? Like that was the rumbling at that time was like, no, they can't. There's just no way. But like people who are like, is he going to be a character in this game? And then we get to the point where he is revealed as a playable character in City of the Wolves. The very real life footballer is now in Southtown.
I never thought that would happen. And I know the state of SNK. I never thought he'd be a character in this game. I didn't think they would do something that stupid. I still can't believe it. The game is out and I've seen it with my own two eyeballs and I still can't accept it. It's so fucking weird.
It's really weird. And I guess like this is probably the part where we have to talk about who owns a majority shareholderness in SNK, because that's the only way we have to justify why this works, like why this is the way this is.
Go ahead, because I don't think a lot of people know this.
Yeah, so this is really complicated. I might get a couple minor details wrong along the way. The Saudi Arabian government, that's the start. Yep. I'm expecting people who know nothing about this to be like, what are they talking about? The Saudi Arabian government has been on an initiative for the past number of years to more or less clean up their geopolitical image through a tactic called sports washing. They are trying to invest themselves in a variety of professional sports and entertainment to showcase themselves in the best light possible and try and get away from the human rights crimes that happen under their lead, and very legitimate human rights crimes. Like,
yes,
this isn't just like us pointing at a different country and saying, oh, they're bad. No, these are very well stated and known human rights violations.
Absolutely.
So they have been investing themselves in WWE, where WWE runs 1 to 2 shows in Saudi Arabia. They have created the Live Golf tournaments. I believe they've invested themselves in their own Formula One racing. And reportedly, Prince of Saudi Arabia, MBS, I don't remember his real name, but he goes by MBS. He is a huge gamer. I remember like 8 years ago, they found the Saudi prince's like Steam profile, and it's just like, oh, this guy's for real. Like this guy, this guy is not a joke. He be playing this shit.
Yeah, he's out here. He
is out here. And so they have been investing in video game companies. And during, I believe, the halfway point of King of Fighters 14, that is when it started to become more and more apparent that they were investing in SNK. And I don't remember if it happened during King of Fighters 14 or if it happened later, but they eventually made a claim for majority ownership in terms of stocks, shareholders. And this was like, at the time, people were like, okay, what do we do about this? A lot of people in the fighting game scene are very politically savvy. You kind of have to be with how queer the fighting game scene is. A majority, if anything, the fighting game scene by nature, heavily non-white and heavily queer.
Yes. And so, that's what I've noticed. I noticed that real quick. How could you not, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, just looking at people who play fighting games just at these tournaments and stuff, even just at Evo and shit, I'm like, oh, it's like that. Cool. There was a article maybe a decade ago that kind of like went into like the history of fighting games and how like predominantly minority they were in terms of racial structure, because they were something that showed up first in these arcades, inner cities, New York, things like that. Like this is like a very minority led hobby. And it became a point of contention of like, okay, what do we do with SNK games now? Because there's this push and pull of like, not the greatest government is out here owning these things, but they're still being made by SNK. It doesn't really seem like there's an influence being made by the Saudi government. In fact, the first thing that was debatably an influence was actually really cool, because one of the like, I don't think she might have been the final character for King of Fighters 14. Naj was, I believe Naj was designed by a Saudi Arabian front of some form to like help to like bring that character to SNK and like put her in the game. And Naj is cool. Naj is fucking sick. Like, absolutely.
SNK has a really high bar specifically for their ladies. If I can talk if I can be a little bold, SNK girls are kind of like the best girls in all of video games.
I'm with you.
They've never missed, not once.
Woo.
Yeah, and Naj fits the bar. Like, Naj is sick. She has a great design, a great gameplay style. Like, they knocked it out of the park. And so that kind of died down for a while, but there's always been this rumbling in the background of like, okay, SNK is owned by the Saudi or majority stockholder, influenced by the Saudi Arabian government. And Cristiano Ronaldo was the point where it kind of reared its ugly head that this is a Saudi Arabian propaganda arm now, because Cristiano Ronaldo is a footballer who is signed to the Saudi Arabian Al Nassr football team. I believe that's their name. Yeah. And he's one of the biggest sporting superstars in the world. And at that point, it's like, okay, well, he's in this video game to support Saudi Arabia's image. There's no other justification for it, because he's a real life footballer, and this is Southtown with Terry Bogard and Rock Howard.
Yeah, at least, I mean, like, you can't even justifiably say he's like, oh, it's Cristiano Ronaldo, but it's like a character. No, it's just him.
It's him.
It's literally just him kicking a soccer ball. Yeah. It's him.
That is the point where like all of the goodwill towards the release of City of the Wolves, it dies like immediately, because not only is it Cristiano Ronaldo, the Saudi Arabian football player from the company who is owned by the Saudi Arabian majority stockholder, you know what I'm saying, by the Saudi Arabian government. Cristiano Ronaldo might also have some alleged sex crime issues.
Yes. Very credible rape charges. I mean, let's just put it out there. I mean, that's what's basically it. That obviously everyone could look that stuff up if they don't know what's happening there. But yeah, I'll be real. I didn't know about this stuff until this came around with City of the Wolves either. I really didn't. I don't watch soccer. So, like, I just have not paid attention to that. We call
it soccer. Of course we don't.
Yeah. If you call it soccer, you don't really pay that much attention.
Yeah. So, like, this compounds it, because not only are you somewhat complicit in, like, here's the Saudi Arabian propaganda character for the Saudi Arabian government, here's an alleged rapist in your video game now. Yeah. Like, this is the biggest turnaround and, like, giganticest fubbling I can ever think of in a video game. Not like a fighting game, but like a video game. This is a horrific breaking of the fourth wall, where now there is a real life person from a dodgy government contract with a very credible sex assault charge, is plural, against him, and he's in your video game. What do you do about that?
You can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
It's there.
You can't like, can you mod him out of the game? Can you go on matchmaking and say, no, Cristiano Ronaldo, show up, please? Like, this is a credible concern. That, like, I don't want to see or play or be anywhere near the room with the alleged rapist in this video game I would otherwise want to play.
Yeah, it's tough. Me and Vin kind of debated back and forth whether we were gonna, because we buy games digitally. We both pre-ordered on PSN, and we were like, are we gonna still play I mean, what do you think? I don't know, and I kept it. I bought the game, I went through with it, but I can't sit here and say that look, I think me by now, and obviously people listen to the show. I don't usually do this with the games. I don't ever typically, like, say this bad person or these bad people made it or this thing happened, so I'm not going to play a video game. Because to me, I kind of take the position of, there's a million people who make a video game. There's a million people who make a movie or whatever, right? Like, artists make this stuff. Yeah, there's bad decisions that go into that sometimes that are beyond their control. But at the same time, I don't want to just throw everything out just because, like, someone else did a bad thing. But even I was like, oh no, I don't I don't know. But I did buy the game, so I don't know, man. I definitely still think about it, though. How can I not? He's in the fucking game.
He's in the game. And I'll say it right. This was my moment of dropping it. I was ride or die for this game in a way that I haven't been in any game since, like, Guilty Gear Strive, before I knew it was Guilty Gear Strive, to just slam that game a little. But, like, I was on top of the world. And this is the part that we do need to, like, mention, is there will be a like historical revisionism of, like, oh, City of the Wolves was never going to be anything. No, fucker. This was on top of the world levels popular. Everyone was talking about it. Everyone was excited about it. People were putting Chain Reaction on repeat, and people more than just me and Andre were doing that. And it came crashing down with the Cristiano Ronaldo edition.
Yeah, it did. And after that, there was another guest character.
Yep.
His name is what? Salvatore Ganacci?
Salvatore Ganacci. Ganacci. I'm just gonna, Ganacci.
I guess he's a hit DJ. I'd never heard of the guy before.
One hit wonder as far as I'm concerned, dude.
But he's also in the game, like, as just like a dude. Well, here's the thing. At least he's like, that guy is, like, putting on a front. At least you could, like, credibly say that can be, like, a character, because, like, his persona as a performer is a character.
Yeah.
So I guess, like, okay, yeah, it's a real life person, but it's also, like, it's not just a guy who plays soccer. So, like, if he were the only guest in the game, I'd be like, okay, it's goofy, it's weird. We have a DJ character in Southtown. We could have just used him, named Duck King, but whatever. I could get over that. but it's the you know what it is? It's the 1-2 punch. I think that's what it is for me. It's the 1-2 punch of that, and then immediately of Ronaldo, and then immediately after that, this DJ guy in the tracksuit, and and it's just like, what are we fucking doing here, man? What are we even doing?
It's important to note that Ganachi is also a friend of the Saudi Arabian government. He plays concerts for their events. So he's another person who is being put into this game because of his association to Saudi Arabian government officials. And that's like the biggest 1-2 punch of like, I just want to play a video game with my favorite Southtown characters. Yeah. And Dre is right. Like, Ganachi has a style to him that befits being a video game character. And we'll also kind of just talk about this now. Ganachi looks like he was actually made for the game in a way that Ronaldo looks like he was made over a weekend in Blender.
Yes.
Ganachi has like animations and like style and like a really interesting player style. And this is actually the one thing I want to mention. The two most interesting like player kits, like the two most interesting play styles in this game are Ronaldo and Ganachi, and that could fuck off. I'm so bad. The two most interesting characters to play as. But Ganachi feels like he could be in this game, and my hot take is that's because they reskinned Duck King and they just put him in the game.
They did.
Yeah. There was some like promotional stuff where like Ganachi's character is like, yeah, me and my buddy Duck King, and I'm like, fuck you. You are not friends with Duck King.
They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing.
That is no friend of yours. I am, because you are a real life person, and Duck King is a video game character. But yeah, Ronaldo does not look like he was finished. Like purposely, he is a unfinished character in terms of his like animations and general model look. And it has been since kind of theorized that Andy and Joe were supposed to be on the main roster, and they got bumped to put Ganachi and Ronaldo in the launch of this game. Which I don't know how you can look at Ronaldo and say anything other than that, because he doesn't look done. He just straight up does not look complete.
Well, some people were assuming that the reason why he's not in the single player mode episodes of Southtown is because it's a real person and they couldn't get the. It's like, no, I just think it wasn't done. I just think they straight up could not finish that. Mm-hmm. That's my personal feeling.
There is a gulf between the way Ronaldo looks and animates and the way Ganachi looks and animates. Yeah. One of these guys was worked on for a very long time, and one of these guys was made in a weekend in Blender. Like it's real obvious.
I and it really sucks because you were talking about, obviously we're talking about this hype cycle grinding to a halt and then turning to dust with Ganachi. But like before that, I remember, was it Tokyo Game Show where they announced the crossover characters, or they announced Ken and Chun-Li were going to be in the game? And I'll get your thoughts on crossovers in general in a second. But like, to me, that's where the hype peaked, because in Street Fighter 6, they announced their season 2 with Terry Bogard and Mai Shiranui in Street Fighter 6, and that was hype. And now it's like Ken and Chun-Li are coming into an SNK game, and it's like, oh my god. And then like Capcom Fighting Collection 2 was announced like the month before that in a Nintendo Direct. So it's like all these Capcom versus SNK vibes are happening right now, baby. And it was like super exciting, and I still think it's going to happen, but that's another podcast.
I still like deep down, Capcom versus SNK 3, it has to happen.
It's happening.
It's happening.
I believe it. I believe that in my heart.
Yeah, it felt right. Mm-hmm. Like seeing Terry, like I got a little emotional seeing Terry in Street Fighter 6 because he looks so good. And like Terry is my comfort character. He's Terry Bogard. He's the coolest character ever. Yeah. Like I know that if I met Terry Bogard in real life, he'd be a cool dude and he would believe in me. That's just like I get emotional thinking about Terry Bogard because he's that cool.
I did not pick another character in Fatal Fury besides Terry until 3. Like I straight up. I only pick Terry Bogard. I like crossovers. I'm kind of critical on crossovers in general in video games on the show, just because I think a lot of them are just like, okay, throw this in because it's popular, and not throw this in because it works and because it fits. I'm all for crossovers that fit. And I'm not even talking about the Fortnite stuff where it's like, just put all the slot, put everything in the game.
Sabrina Carpenter with the AK. Yeah. Fuck it.
It's ridiculous, right? But just in general, shit, I'm the person who has the hot take on this show where I'm like, on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, get out of here, Splatoon kids. Get out of here, Animal Crossing. Get out of here, Zelda and Link. No, this is Mario Kart. This is not Nintendo Kart. I want Mario Kart, and I'm glad Mario Kart World is doing that. But again, that's another show.
No, I'll tell you on that hot take. Seeing Link in that game's really weird.
It's weird. Although that Zelda course did give me a viral tweet on Twitter back in the day. So I do.
The bills were getting paid a little bit that month.
I doubled my follower count because of one viral tweet I had on that course. But anyway, in general, in fighting games, I don't mind it if it feels like it works. If it works, it works. If it feels just out of place for marketing purposes or something, I'm not with it. How do you generally feel about this kind of stuff?
So I'm conflicted because like guest characters and crossover spots have been really popular, and it's a weird thing where I'm like, okay, I can justify that. I think that's neat, but like 6 years of I think that's neat is starting to wear thin on me.
Mm-hmm.
So even if it's something that I'm like okay with, like I'll never say no to Terry in anything. But I think one of the more okay, this is getting out of hand moments was Samurai Showdown 7, where you had the Chinese bunny girl from the Chinese gacha game. You had Warren from For Honor, and
that was so weird.
That one's really weird. And you had Baiken from Guilty Gear.
That kind of fit.
That one fit, and you had Hibiki from Last Blade 2, which was really cool because that's a cut from like, you got to have some gray hairs.
Oh yeah,
for you to understand the Last Blade 2 cut.
I absolutely do. Look at this chin right now. I like Last Blade.
my hair is sparkling in the light because I got salt and pepper. So that's the thing, but that is kind of becoming a pressure point for people where it's like, okay, yeah, that was 4 guest characters, 2 of which I can justify and 2 of which are like neat, I guess, but can we get an original character? Can we get like someone else? Like there's kind of like a fight for space that's happening, and guest characters are taking up a little too much of the space sometimes.
I think I agree. Even though I like Terry and Mai in this, we'll see how Ken and Chun-Li pan out in City of the Wolves. However, I think that's going to be great because I love Ken, and so it's going to be good. But like, I'm always for new people. It's like I said, I'm always for throwing out everybody the Street Fighter 3 approach and just like here, because obviously I'm sure that game wasn't even supposed to have Ryu and Ken. They just did it because like, oh, it's a Street Fighter game. I guess we have to have them.
We need to sell something.
Yeah. Right. Shit. So how many characters did Street Fighter 6 have at the start? I think 18 or 20, and 6 of them are new.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great. I thought that was like, the fact that felt bold these days kind of is cool, but also sucks because it's like your game shouldn't feel radical for having 6 new people. Like that's just, I don't know.
I will say, and I'm a little bit critical of Street Fighter 6. I will say that 3.5 of those new characters are still waiting to be added to the character select screen. Manon, Lily, Jamie, and like half of Marisa are like, hey, can we be characters already?
Marissa is at least a scrub killer though.
Yeah, she has like a ceiling on her, but like she blasts people pretty badly. I
got my ass whooped. I still do. I still don't always know what to do, but once you know what to do.
Yeah, the criminal, there's JP. JP is a criminal.
I fucking love JP.
He's really cool. I hate that kid. I love him, hate him.
I love it.
But yeah, in general, like they did a good job with that. And City of the Wolves did not really have that many new characters, but they had Preacha, which is like, as we said, SNK does not miss on their ladies, and another like 10 out of 10, knock it out of the park. Preacha's so cool. Again, the hype cycle cannot be overstated. I was over the moon with Preacha as a character going to be in that game.
I have not even tried Preacha yet. I'm like saving myself for marriage. I want to once I get Terry and like Marco and stuff out of my system, I'll get around to Preacha. But that's that you're talking about SNK ladies. That's what makes me so mad that SNK heroine sucks so much ass, because I was like, this is gonna be great. Oh no, it's not great at all. Oh no, he's going to the shelf. He's getting something, folks. Is he going to pull out a SNK Heroines box? I feel like he's gonna. I hope you guys can hear this in the background. I want to hear. Oh, it's a big box. I knew that's what he was going to get.
I got the SNK limited edition. It's the gigantic box.
Oh, wow. That's so cool, though.
It's so cool. This game sucks, but it's got all the ladies. It's got the hat.
Oh, the fatal cute hat. The fatal. Oh, that's so cool.
What else does it have? I've opened it up.
Oh, show me that. What's in there?
It's got SNK Heroine's tank top.
Oh,
I got it all, man.
Oh man, for such a well, hey, you know what? The game was worth this at least.
Exactly.
This is cool. Oh man, I want to
like again. SNK, they know how to do it.
They really do. The female Terry Bogard was just the first time I saw that. I was like, you gotta be kidding me! This is crazy.
This is your mind on fire time.
Okay, so through this hype cycle that was of the highest of highs and then came crashing down to the lowest of lows, the game comes out and the sales numbers appear to reflect this lost momentum, because I'll just go over some stuff. We don't have a whole lot of hard numbers, but I put together a ton of circumstantial evidence that I think will convict this game in a court of law. So over its first 2 weeks, these are the only real numbers we have. The PS5 version of City of the Wolves in Japan sold 6,300 copies.
Mm-hmm.
6,300.
And those ones are reputable because Famitsu tracks sales pretty accurately. So we at least know what's going on in Japan with pretty certain, numbers.
Yeah, they get that down to the very single digit, they know what's going on.
They have to. They got to track those Xboxes sold in single digits.
I think when I looked at that, the Xbox Series family had sold 50 units.
I checked the Famitsu charts just to be like, how many tens of Xboxes were sold this week?
Just incredible. I think PS4 outsold it that week.
Yeah, I would doubt it.
6,300 copies. Obviously not a good number. And obviously we're way past the point where Japan is the litmus test for how things are going to sell, because things are much more global now. But that is what it is. The Steam numbers, the Steam charts numbers were well below the beta numbers. Now I get it. A beta's free and buying the game is not. However, still that first beta attracted, I think, what did I write down? Almost 10K. Yeah. 9,800 people. So that's a lot for a game that's, hasn't been around for a long time for a franchise. The actual retail release of City of the Wolves peaked out at 4,800 players. And as of this recording, I looked at the last 24 hours on the Steam charts, 500 players. Oof. To put that in perspective for people who don't really know this stuff, Street Fighter 6 yesterday peaked out at the 24-hour period of 28,000 players. Okay? People are playing that shit. Even Tekken 8, a game in an absolute dire state right now.
Tekken 8 is running on one wheel and spit and duct tape.
Oh my god, they're trying though. God bless them for trying, but it's gonna be a while. Even Tekken 8, that topped out at 6,800 players yesterday.
Mhm.
So again, Steam charts aren't everything, but they should sure tell us a lot. You
Yeah.
know, and the evidence I feel is kind of clear. This game is just not hidden.
Yeah, and I'll also say that there has been, not to incur the D word discourse, but people talk about like, yeah, there's no reason you should be bringing up like Steam chart numbers for things, but this is a multiplayer game, and this is a instance where those numbers are real and reflect the health of a multiplayer game. Single player games, let's not be a fucking goofball, but multiplayer games, these are relevant stats to help discern what's going on in probably one of the biggest storefront ecosystems that the game would be played on.
Yeah. And so if that's 500 people and most people don't play those kind of games online, I don't. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a complete casual that way. I go in there, play some single player content. I play against Vin or other people that I know sometimes, and that's it. You know, I'm not out here grinding online matches. I've just never been that type of person. So 500 people may be playing the game. How many people are playing it online? Probably less than half that. So it's in a dire state. So as far as this region of the world goes, just America, or North America, I should say, it did not make April's what do they call MPD now? Circana chart, which I didn't expect it to. I don't think a game like that is going to like sell enough to make that kind of chart. However, this is the one that's more telling to me. It did not chart on like the PlayStation top 20 downloads for like PS5 or PS4. Did not make those. And typically, even fighting games that aren't like the biggest shit will make those. And to put that in perspective, Mortal Kombat 1 was on that list last month at number 17 in the top 20. That's a game the casual fan base completely rejected.
Yeah, that's a game that just ended support early.
Yes, and is going to have a collection coming out, or a complete edition coming out, which isn't even out yet, and people are buying Mortal Kombat 1, right? So that should tell you everything you need to know about City of the Wolves. Also, the vibe check right now, rancid. The vibes are rancid.
Yeah, the vibes might be worse than rancid. The vibes might just be non-existent.
Yeah, I don't think they exist at all.
The vibes are gone. There are no vibes.
Yeah, okay, I guess we could say Tekken 8 vibes are rancid. The vibes don't exist right now for City of the Wolves. So, yeah, the game is bombing. I think we've talked about a lot of things that we can point to. The guest characters turning off the community, I guess, is what we could start with. And here's something that I came to a realization of during this hype cycle. I've always kind of dismissed like the hardcore fighting game community as being like, as really mattering in this, because that's only so many people. And it's not those people where you're going to get the sales from. It's from everyone else. It's from people like me. But over time, I realized that those people are the hype makers. Those people are the taste makers, if you want to use that term. So it's also like, yeah, they don't need to buy your game because that's not very many people, but they also drive it into like consciousness of other people by them being hype about it, by those people talking about it. They sort of, I mean, I hate using the term influencers, but you know what I'm trying to say. I think that's like, I think that's a thing that I didn't realize, you know, when in going in the City of the Wolves, but I definitely realize it now.
There's and this is just an anecdote of 10 people, but one of the local chats I'm in for our like offline fighting game scene, someone asked like, how many of you people didn't buy this game because of Ronaldo? And 8 people said, I didn't buy it because of Ronaldo. Like immediately. Wow. They're like, yeah, I didn't do it. Like it just like it within the span of like 5 minutes. Like it was an instant, like I didn't. And I didn't. Like, and 8 people not buying the game doesn't sound like much, but when you have a small community, this is Toledo, Ohio, I'm talking about, you know, this isn't New York, but the difference of like 8 people who had legitimate interest in the game who then said, nope, not buying this. Well, that's going to negatively impact the amount of care that gets put in on a weekly, bi-weekly, what have you basis of people who are interested in the game, grinding the game, promoting the game, talking about the game, playing the game, broadcasting the game, looking for tips, looking for footage of the game. Like that's the stuff that keeps this going. And that was the big moment where I was like, sure, that's 8 people that said that. think of every medium-sized city in North America. If you had 8 people, say, in each of those cities, I'm not buying it. Like that does a number on something. And I think that's one of maybe many reasons why this ended up the way it is. It's not the biggest reason. I'll tell you that right now. It's not the biggest reason, but having a kind of hard off point for so many people within the scene, it's not going to help its initial numbers, but it's going to tank its long-term success.
I have to agree, and that's something I wouldn't have agreed with like 3 months ago. And I think I agree now. I think there's that just has to be it. And like I said, for me, I don't usually get turned off by stuff like this. And even I was like, should I still buy this? But I did. But
we typically do not have to think about that.
Yeah, I hate that I have to think about stuff like that. They also did a lot of weird, like, before the game came out shortly, I think you watch wrestling, right? Like they did like a whole thing at like, was it WrestleMania or was it something else?
It was WrestleMania. So this is kind of my big take on why this actually didn't go off. And this is another kind of like Saudi Arabian deep dive. The way that they promoted this game was not conducive to promoting a video game because they don't actually know how to promote a video game, nor do I think they were interested in promoting a video game. They used Fatal Fury as a brand to then branch off of that and promote different things that were not related to Fatal Fury and not actually conducive to selling Fatal Fury. Like putting the Fatal Fury graphic in the center of the WrestleMania ring, that's just getting your brand out there. That works. Like that makes sense. Yeah. You want to put your product in front of eyeballs. You put it on the mat of WrestleMania. That is good marketing. What is bad marketing is, to explain this, we need to go on another deep dive.
Okay,
Saudi Arabian government has a member within it named Turki Al-Sheikh, and he is making waves gigantically across the boxing world in the past year and a half to 2 years by being a huge money force and just kind of bogarting his way into boxing internationally and saying, okay, you guys don't want to make this fight happen for many reasons. Anyone familiar with the history of boxing knows why fights don't happen in boxing sometimes.
Yep.
He says, okay, how about I add a couple zeros on the end of that and we do this fight in Saudi Arabia?
Oof.
Well, now people are a little interested in having this fight because a couple zeros got added to the end of their paycheck. So there has been a huge push from Turki Al-Sheikh to make a name for himself and for Saudi Arabia as the premier boxing promotion. This has gone so far as for Turki Al-Sheikh to buy out the long-standing prestigious Rings magazine as a brand that Turki Al-Sheikh and Saudi Arabia now own. Mm-hmm. And this culminated, for what is relevant to our conversation, in a series of fights in and around Cinco de Mayo weekend that were promoted as Fatal Fury. So a week before Cinco de Mayo, there was a fight between, I want to say it's Ben and Eubank Jr. I could be getting those names wrong. And there was a promotional trailer for this fight put out where I think it's KSI and I Show Speed like show up and they're like, oh man, something video games. And like the shadow of Geese Howard is attacking us. Maybe this is a different trailer. They did a couple of these that are just like, they're not.
This shit was so weird.
They don't promote anything. They're just like weird. But then there's one where it's like, we're video gameatizing Ben and Eubank Jr. ahead of their iconic match in England. And it doesn't say anything about City of the Wolves. It just kind of has a general like quote unquote Fatal Fury vibe to it. I remember specifically there's a account like Fighting Game Anniversaries. Like it's a person who's like kind of running a professional account for whatever that counts for. And they're like, wow, this Fatal Fury trailer showcases Chris Eubank Jr. and Ben, whatever the guy's name is. And I watched it. I'm like, no, it doesn't. This has nothing to do with Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. This is just like a Fatal Fury City of the Wolves color over this boxing promotion.
So that City of the Wolves flavored.
It's City of the Wolves flavored. You have it for breakfast. So that fight happens, and then a week later is Cinco de Mayo, which, if you know boxing, Cinco de Mayo is one of the biggest weekends in boxing.
100%.
There is so much Mexican heritage tied up in boxing. This is a huge deal.
Oh yeah, being from San Diego, I know that shit.
Very
well.
Cinco de Mayo is busy over there.
Oh yeah.
Boxing is gigantic, and that weekend was the Fatal Fury event in Times Square. And this could be its own podcast if this was a boxing podcast. It is. Turkey Al-Sheikh set up a boxing arena or boxing ring in Times Square, and he booked like 3 of the biggest rising stars in boxing to have fights: Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, and Ryan Garcia. And it was this big promotional thing tied in with Fatal Fury, but at no point was it promoting Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. It was just Fatal Fury cereal. You eat it for breakfast. And there was boxing attached to it.
It was such a weird idea. It was just so weird.
This was a gigantic bomb. It was a disaster. This was the worst Cinco de Mayo boxing event in recent, if not all, of boxing history.
Has to
because they couldn't. You can't sell tickets to a Times Square events. They found that out. There was this, so it's like a weird, like 200 politicians and influencers who are watching, journalists who are watching from TV screens and buildings like a block away. According to CompuBox, which is the computer stats boxing statistician that has been tracking boxing since I think 1985. 2 of these fights were in the 5 worst fights in boxing history.
Wow.
Ryan Garcia got upset in the main event, which wasn't supposed to happen.
No.
And then the next day, which I don't think this is Fatal Fury branded, this was Riyadh season branded. Canelo Alvarez, the current like Mexican hero of boxing, was not fighting in anywhere close to Mexico. He was fighting for a couple thousand people in Saudi Arabia against Martin School. I believe Martin's his first name. I could be wrong. School's his last name. And the CompuBox said that was also in the bottom 5 of boxing matches ever. This Cinco de Mayo, I can't
imagine why.
So this Cinco de Mayo weekend that was promoted with Fatal Fury branding on top of it gave you like 3 of the worst fights in boxing history.
And the promotion was just clinically insane, bizarre.
It didn't have anything to do with the game.
It was so weird, man.
You ended up with this problem of like, what did they think they were doing with Fatal Fury? Like, up until we said like that, the last quarter of the promotion for this game, everything looked like it was making sense. And then these wacky ass guest characters show up who are Saudi friends. And then Fatal Fury is used as a branch of boxing promotion. And then the game comes out and no one buys it because it wasn't promoted properly. Boxing fans don't give a fuck about SNK games. They don't know what an SNK game is.
I mean, nor should they. I mean, like, I can't imagine. I just don't know, man. Again, this just reeks of someone at the top, maybe in the Saudi government or whatever. It's like, oh, I like boxing. Let's just, like, I don't know. Like, it felt, the whole thing was really misguided.
I thought I put it in the show notes. Maybe I didn't, but we talked about this beforehand. I can't remember his name, but one of the guys who I think is the EIC of RPG Site, he said that he talked to someone who is certifiably in the know and heard a number of what the Saudi Arabian people thought this game was going to sell, and his only response was like laughing uproariously.
Yeah, you did put that in the notes, and I did laugh my ass off when I read that, because it's just like they thought this was something, and I think that's where maybe we can point to the most. They severely overestimated the appeal of Fatal Fury. Yeah, because like, I would venture, as my like basic bitch fighting game person opinion, I would venture to guess that so many more people will recognize like classic Fatal Fury, like a Fatal Fury special or like something like that, and like that look, that Neo Geo classic early Neo Geo look versus like Mark of the Wolves, which is not something that was ever like mainstream popular here. And I'm not saying that like Fatal Fury was like the shit here either, but it definitely had something. People at least knew what that was growing up. By the time we got to Mark of the Wolves, Neo Geo was like old hat. Like no one really gave that much of a shit, and arcades here were not like as popular as they used to be, so it didn't really stand a chance. So like I think I'm not saying they should have done this. I love City of the Wolves as it is, and I love what they did here, and I love that they went back to that. But if they wanted like mainstream acceptability, it wasn't going to be Mark of the Wolves 2. I just don't think that's it.
Because you have to remember, Mark of the Wolves is a spin-off of Fatal Fury.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a spin-off that's 20 years old. When was the last time we ever even had a Fatal Fury game? There are people I know in life who have lived in a world where a Fatal Fury game hasn't been released within their lifetime.
Yeah.
This is like SNK is, traditionally speaking, always like kind of bottom of the rung of the big fighting game names. They're not Namco, they're not Capcom,
no,
they're not, any of these guys. They're SNK. People love them for that, and I think it's a huge misunderstanding of what type of clout, for lack of a better term, this company and their series really have, especially today, because it's not 1995 anymore.
Yeah. It was just bizarre that they're treating this like they're treating it like Street Fighter, basically.
Yeah.
And
they
it's
thought
not.
they had Street Fighter different on their hands.
Fine time.
Let me go to this is my hot take of the show, okay? I'm just gonna put it out there, and I feel like you might understand me here. I never thought Mark of the Wolves was that good. Don't get me wrong. I like Mark of the Wolves. It's a cool game, and I really enjoyed it when I got it on Dreamcast, and I bought it again when they did the Code Mystics did the PS4 version or something. I bought it twice, okay?
That version's very good. Everyone out there, it's a very good version.
It's very good. I love that game, okay? But if I'm talking my favorite Neo Geo games, it doesn't really rate, for me. And certainly if I'm talking, even if I'm just doing fighting games, if I'm making like, what are my top 10 Neo Geo fighting games, I still don't think I'd do Mark of the Wolves. I would put Fatal Fury 3 or any of the 3 real bouts over Mark of the Wolves in my book, personally speaking. I don't know how hot of a take that is in the fighting game community.
It's a take with like medium heat.
Okay.
Again, only because there's been so much time. When Garo, Mark of the Wolves, was the last Fatal Fury game 20 years ago, it's going to be the one that's the most popular and most well remembered. It was kind of the SNK Third Strike. They came out very contemporaneous. They did a big shakeup of the mechanics, and they had a entirely new roster, at a different time in the timeline, so to speak. It's a game that kind of is held up because of its contemporaries a little bit, and because it's the last of its kind. We never got another Fatal Fury game after that. But I don't think you're wrong, because there are people who still, like competitive people, who still go back to Real Bout 2.
Really?
Like Real Bout 2 still has like it's to scale because it's an SNK game.
Right.
But like Real Bout 2 still has a lot. I think even maybe Fatal Fury 2 Special has a fair amount of people in Japan playing that. There's still a fair amount of love for other Fatal Furies and not Garo, but Garo does have a certain, I want to say, like artificially inflatedness to it because it was the last one.
It has, because of that, it's had its reputation grow over time. As you said, it has been, this was the last one to come out. So, and like you said, even though it's a spinoff, It's not even like, I mean, I guess Real Bouts are spinoffs too, but that feels a lot more like what Fatal Fury was before that than Mark of the
that's
Wolves.
Like Real Bout is to Fatal Fury what like Alpha is to Street Fighter 2.
That's a very good comparison.
Alpha doesn't feel like a spin-off. It just feels like, okay, we're doing a different Street Fighter.
Yeah. People who didn't grow up in the era will just not like trying to conceive like Alpha and EX and like Street Fighter 3 and stuff all happening at like concurrently just seems like insane now, but I lived it and it still seems insane.
Do you ever think how the 90s feels like you could live an entire life?
Yeah.
The 90s in terms of like in general, like video gaming in the 90s.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it. I have to explain to my kid one day that like, no, I didn't have to wait for video games.
No.
A new version of every game I liked came out every year.
They were just happening, baby. They were
maybe
happening.
2 years if it was a big one. But every year, one of my favorite video games got a sequel.
And then it very quickly reuse them assets, baby. That's what we want. And I'm not I am an old school From Software person. I'm not really into the Soul stuff, but I really appreciate Elden Ring Night Rain just because they're just reusing that shit, baby. Just make another game. Doesn't matter. I really appreciate that stuff. I guess this episode wouldn't be complete if I didn't say what I thought about the game. We've already established you didn't buy it.
Yeah, I stopped, but
just real quick. I'm really enjoying City of the Wolves. I really enjoy the single player thing called Episodes of Southtown. It's trying to do like if anyone's ever played a home version of Alpha 3 where they have like the world tour mode, it's trying to do something like that, but maybe like a little less involved than that. You level up, so it's kind of RPG like. Right? It's not as in-depth leveling up as World Tour, but it's something, right? And you get a lot of good story because that's honestly what I come to Art of Fighting and Fatal Fury for. I'm not like a super lore person when it comes to fighting games. It's never been totally my thing. But when it comes to those two series, I kind of am a little bit. And the episodes of Southtown, yeah, it's goofy and it's weird and it's kind of like fuck off mode, but it gives me that Southtown flavor that I love. Like a couple years ago when me and Steve went through a bunch of fighting game anime and we watched the Art of Fighting OAV from like 1992. It wasn't that good, but I just loved the city. That's like the character to me. So getting to do that in a game like this with like modern graphics and that pop art style and stuff is fun. And look, I'm not going to break down the gameplay here because that's another podcast, but just know that it's really good stuff. It almost reminds me, I don't know if you'll follow me on this. It almost reminds me a little bit of like a Street Fighter EX, maybe 2 or 3, where you can kind of just chain those EX moves together. You know what I mean? To make this sort of combo, which seems easy, but it's also execution that I can do, which always makes me happy.
I'll give you a slight hint right here. SNK games have an input buffer where if you do the input and you just hold the buttons, it'll repeat that input for the next like number of frames. So
really?
the execution window is actually smaller. You just have to hold the button.
Wow. Okay, I'll try that
there's SNK games in particular. There's a lot of like hidden tech that you actually need to know to play. If you ever looked at like those King of Fighters games and the super inputs are like, what the fuck? How am I supposed to do that? I can break that shit down. You actually do like 4 of those things and it's really easy.
It's tough. Yeah. The first time I tried to pull off the pretzel motion, the geese pretzel, I was like, what even? I saw it maybe not on the side of the cabinet. I think I saw it in a magazine or somewhere. And I was just like, what is this? Am I supposed to do this? Anyway, but yeah, I'm really enjoying City of the Wolves. I think the worst thing about it is that several background elements run at 30 frames a second for some reason.
It's real distracting.
It's very distracting, including like the train stages where you're in motion. It is a slideshow. I can't believe what's going on. Why did that happen?
Trains, in particular with fighting games, have a long history of being like, this is the stage we will not play competitively.
Why? Because it's too weird or something? Or
it's disorienting. Usually they're the ones that, if anything, they're going to incur lag because they're just like weird. Like notoriously, the train stage in Exerd is like the one stage that's like
Oh,
banned because
okay.
it doesn't run properly compared to all the other stages.
Gotcha. Okay, so maybe it's like I know, like, I forget what, maybe it's all the Street Fighters. I know, like, different stages run at different, like, speeds sometimes, I think.
They're probably
like,
all tuned to make sure the game itself runs at 60, because that's what's the most important about fighting games. They have to run at 60 or they don't work, which is why I'm a frame rate pervert, and that's why probably you are too.
Yeah, I am a frame rate pervert in general, but about fighting games, yes, of course. Like, it's got to be that. So, but yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I like the English voice cast a lot.
It's good.
I think, they've done a really good job, especially Mai. I think some people think Mai sounds a little strange. I think she's spot on. I think she sounds great. I don't know if it's the same. It probably is the same person in Street Fighter 6 and City of the Wolves, but I mean, like, it's really good stuff. Maybe another slightly spicy take here. Something I didn't realize because during the hype cycle, but now that the game's out and I'm playing it for a bit, not a great base roster. It's not terrible, but it's also not like super great either. I don't know.
I think you are correct. And I think they were somewhat handcuffed, not just by the guest characters. Like, that did a lot of damage. 2 slots going to real life humans, that's just going to do damage.
Yeah.
But they are in a weird position with the City of the Wolves roster where you kind of have to bring everybody back, but that doesn't give you a whole lot of room for new exciting things. And this is the nice thing about City of the Wolves that I do like, is like there's asset reuse in this game. Like, that is King of Fighters 15, Terry, Rock, and B Jenny just in the game. The new outfit for Mai.
It's so good.
Lord.
Chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss once again. As I said, SNK and their ladies, they just don't miss.
Yeah, they never have.
Yeah, it takes a special type of company to put more clothes on Mai and still nail it.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
It's great.
Like, I'll show you. It's like, I'll show you, hose. We're gonna cover her up, and it's gonna be great.
It's still gonna be great. She's so cool. Mai is so fucking cool.
What they've done with B Jenny since 15, though. Ooh, I tell you what, Jesus. Anyway,
good Lord, B Jenny. But there's only 2 new characters, which is right. It's Preacha and Vox Reaper.
Yes.
And they both make sense. Preacha's the protege of Joe, and she's awesome. Mm-hmm. Vox Reaper is the protege of Grant, and he's kind of cringe, but like in a way that's okay.
He's 90s cringe.
Yeah, he's 90s cringe.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this awkward feeling of like, okay, well, we have to have Kevin in the game. You don't. You never.
You really don't. Really don't. Where was Kevin on January 6th?
Yeah,
by the way?
We know where Kevin was on January 6th. I have so many things to say about Kevin. Do you know anything about Kevin in Mark of the Wolves?
Not really.
He's the most busted character you'll ever see in your life.
Really? Okay.
He is like debatably banned. Because of what is this is only I'm only mentioning this because it's funny, because of something called the fart glitch.
Do tell.
So when he does his he has that move in City of the Wolves where he like leans behind him and like charges his hand full of fire and then does like the back fist full of fire.
Okay.
What you do is you input that and you press D to cancel it, and you can do it like super fast. And so it looks like he's turning around and having one little fireball poof, and then he comes out of the stance where he's normal. So there's a little fireball poof right behind his butt. So it's called the fart glitch. Colloquially known. There's a number of names for it. But what you do is you do that in rapid succession, and you do it freely. You can do it without any sort of punishment, and you gain insane amounts of meter. And then his P super in that game is a 0 frame startup anti-air that combos afterwards. So you just be like, do a bunch of farts, and then you do the super anytime they jump, and you kill them because there's another. You're in a capture state. He's insane in that game. So
That's
when they were
crazy.
like, Kevin's back in City of the Wolves, I'm like, he could not be.
He can stay on.
But the thing that I think hurt me the most about the roster is that we got Donghua and we didn't get Yehoon. Like that was the point where I'm like, oh, something feels wrong here.
Yeah, I would have really enjoyed that character myself. I don't know. Yeah, I wish there was just some more. I see, that's the thing. It's hard for me to articulate like what I would want this roster to be. And I don't think this roster is terrible. It's just not really exciting. Maybe it's just not to my particular taste of like characters that I like. Like I really like Marco, right? Or I really obviously we love Terry or something. And I've never been into Rock, but I don't know. I might, I'm kind of eyeballing him, right? I might try. Preach, I need to, like I said, I'm saving myself. I'll get there. B Jenny, yes, but like, most of them kind of like, I don't really, doesn't really do much for me. I think it's just personal. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they're stuck between a rock and a hard place where they put too many of the Mark of the Wolves characters in, where you expect the full Mark of the Wolves roster to be in, other than Freeman. No one gives a shit about him. But now you don't really have enough space for the cool, new, exciting characters that would kind of entice you. So they just kind of like tragically split the middle in a way. And again, it would have been much better with two characters who were not real life people.
Yeah.
But they just kind of awkwardly split the middle. And I think it's a little of a bummer.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, like, look, obviously this first round of DLC is coming in. By the way, do you want to talk about that real quick?
Yes.
Because I think it's so weird that, okay, so basically, here's how it goes, folks. The game is $60, and it's a special edition of the game. There is no regular edition of the game for a cheaper price. You can only buy the quote-unquote special edition, which comes with the first year of DLC characters, which, like, okay, a lot of people who buy fighting games are going to do or want that, right? But you can't buy the game for, let's say, $40 and not have that stuff. I think that is a big mistake. I don't want to get into the whole thing of fighting games and DLC and stuff are way too expensive, because we all know that. But, like, this would have been the game to like get some more acceptability at a cheaper price, like $40, and not force everyone into, hey, you're getting the special edition when there is no regular edition.
Yeah, I think it's only okay because they chose the price point that a game, like a major fighting game release, would normally come out as. And so it feels a little bit more like you're getting the fighting game and you're not paying for the DLC, which is nice. But if you're doing that, maybe you could stack it differently and entice more. Like, it feels weird that there's not an opt out, so to speak.
Yeah. It's strange. I feel like if you're willing to give this a quote unquote give this away for $60, I feel like you should just sell the game for $40. You would have at least gotten some more eyeballs on it. Hey, this one, these other games are really expensive, but this one's only $40 and it's brand new. Maybe, I don't know, man. What do I know? Great music. I can't go to the end here without saying the music in City of the Wolves is excellent. I love the music in this game, not just Chain Reaction. It's really good. It reminds me again of 90s OAVs of like Art of Fighting and Fatal Fury and stuff, of how the music in those shows, in those anime, were just incredible because they're going all out. It's not on the Neo Geo, so they can just go wild. Basically the quote unquote Red Book version of their music here.
Red
and
Book
City
audio.
of the Wolves, the City of the Wolves delivers on that promise, man. The music here is great, in my opinion.
It does feel like a Neo Geo game unleashed.
Yeah.
For all of the beta 1 I played, like the only stage was the B Jenny stage. And every round it starts off with those swing, swing, swing tom hits on the drums, and I'm like,
yes.
hell yes! I was like, it's so good. I was singing that song to myself like the rest of the day after I was done playing.
So good.
At SNK, there's some things they just never get wrong.
Fine time.
Okay, let's get to the end here. Can they salvage this? Do you think there's something they can do? Do you think they could do like a old school type of iterative sequel, like Blaze Blue or Guilty Gear used to do, like put out a quickie, like, hey, here's another version with some more, like, I don't even know if they would do something like that, or maybe a season 2, if they have like really killer characters, could they like, do you think there's any salvaging this?
No. Quite frankly, no. Because for a couple reasons, primarily being because what they thought they were going to get with this game. There's no salvaging what they expected this to sell. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, the biggest pressure point that this game has are the two characters who are real life people, one of which has very real sex crimes alleged against him.
Yeah.
Like, you can't add to the game to fix that. That is something that only subtracting from the game would fix. And I don't ever foresee them. I've pitched this before. Remove Cristiano Ronaldo. He's now Cristiano Bonaldo. He's the fourth member of the U.S. sports team. It would sell. It would sell.
Oh my god!
But that's never going to happen, and that is the biggest pressure point for a lot of people in terms of if they were to purchase this game. Speaking from myself being within the scene.
Yeah, because like I don't think there's any shot at mainstream commercial viability like they thought. So you may as well just try to appeal to the audience that it has. And look, I like fighting games, but I'm not like in the shit like you, right? But I'm here for them, and that would, even though I bought this version, I would still follow them down that road because I do like this game a lot. But maybe that's it. Do you think that this game, despite everything, could find a foothold in the fighting game community over the years? Like, do you think like maybe this is a game that people will hang on to? Hey, you know, whatever. I mean, look, it's not Capcom Fighting Evolution, right? It's not like this dog water, like, you know, bullshit game. It's I just think that like maybe at some point people will see the gameplay for what it is, and maybe it'll just have somewhat of a life, maybe.
Mm-hmm. There's one thing I thought of that I also want to mention that I think is really important. Another thing that probably did not help them with their sales is they did not do correct regional pricing on this game.
Oh, yes.
And Cristiano Ronaldo's popularity has a certain South American flair to it.
Mm-hmm.
And regional pricing kind of fucked those people over.
Yeah, I read about the price, and I knew about the price in Mexico was insane. I didn't know about other places, though, in Latin America. For those who don't know, SNK games are huge in Latin America, and they always have
gigantic,
been. Yeah, so like that's why this is so important that the games are priced well there, because like, I mean, I'll tell you what, like even just growing up, I never played King of Fighters at the arcade against someone who spoke English. I'll put it that way. So like that's how in that community those games are. They
are primarily known to be Latin American, Mexican games, and Cristiano Ronaldo's popularity is South American. He's Portuguese, and not only is the popularity of football gigantic in South Africa, or South America, sorry, that would be the place where this would hit, and it is unfairly priced in those regions.
Very.
So that would be your key market, and it was a gigantic fumble that they couldn't make that an affordable pricing for those areas. But back to the question you asked, Andre, does this find its place in the fighting game scene? Yes, it will. It already has. The people who want to play this game will play this game. For many people, the reason they won't play it is what we discussed. Primarily the person who is in it.
Right. And that's totally fine.
That's totally fine. And that's kind of the issue is this could have been bigger in the fighting game scene. That you could have had a lot more people be interested in this. But the fact that that doesn't happen doesn't mean it's going to die in the scene. People who are SNK heads will still play this. There is some dislike about the actual way the game plays. It does have a certain Street Fighter 6 approach to the way its gameplay is, right. And competitively speaking, which you like, competitively speaking, Street Fighter 6's methodology is getting a little long in the tooth for people because competitively it's just not the best system, and seeing those aspects come to an SNK game was turning off a lot of people. But regardless of all that, it's going to still have a home. Like it was at Combo Breaker. People definitely played it. The Combo Breaker was just like a weekend or two ago. And it will find its people. It's just a shame that its people could have been so much bigger if we had a bit of a different timeline on it.
Because I know some people who were like usually hype men for this stuff sort of backed off. Like I know Maximilian Dude in particular, like kind of stepped away from the like SNK stuff just because he found out about Ronaldo. Like I did not know either. But once he found out too, he was kind of like, nah, I'm not gonna do the promotion. I'll play the game, but I'm not gonna, you know, be in the shit like I would normally would be.
And I think there was a bit of a concerted effort from the Saudis to get him back in, because Maximilian Dude, for people who are not aware, is like the biggest fighting game streamer. And Ganachi was like, hey Maximilian, what size tracksuit do you wear? And so like they're trying to like still ply to him to get some more promotional coverage, because he's the biggest streaming name. That is still in today's market, that's how you sell things. You have to go with the YouTubers and the influencers to a certain extent. So it will find its people, but it could have done so much better. And that is a shame, because SNK games are kind of seen as the little brother of the fighting game scene in a sense. They kind of get kicked around a little bit. They get dumped on. People, I wouldn't say make fun of them, but they are kind of seen as like the lowest rung, because they are always the smaller side. People have never traditionally played King of Fighters in huge numbers. There haven't been Samurai Showdown players in huge numbers. And City of the Wolves could have been the big numbers game.
Yeah.
And now it's going to be another SNK-sized game. That's the disappointing part. Yeah,
and that's worth mentioning. Samurai Showdown sold really well. Like, really well. The casual audience got onto that one. Not like, millions of copies, but like really well for an SNK game. Like, it's got to be their best-selling game in the last, 10 years. It has to be. I don't see what else it could be.
They released it across a variety of platforms, and they supported that game, because it was 4 years later where it got rollback. And that was great, because people liked that game. It's a good game. It's a really good game. And now you can play it online, because its online was originally trash.
SNK games and the King of Fighters 14 online was fucking. I still have horror stories in my brain.
I played that game online in a number of tournaments. There was one tournament where I was so high where I was like, am I baked and this game's moving at a half speed, or is the netcode shit and I'm moving at a half speed?
Maybe both.
I was like halfway through the round and I was like, everything's in slow motion and I don't know if it's me or the game.
That was a confluence of events. But I guess this might be a good time to mention, since we talked so much about the brass at the top here, the SNK president stepped down. I want to say maybe 3 weeks ago.
3 and change, give or take. Yeah.
And look, we can speculate as to why that is, but I mean, look, the way this game has gone, I'm probably the reason.
It wasn't specifically stated it was because of this game's sales, but under what circumstances else could there be?
Yeah.
Come on. It's not like there's another SNK game happening right now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this has to be it, but hey, who knows for real, right? But I mean, we can obviously speculate and we're probably correct. The only thing I have left to say is that they kind of casually mentioned 6 months ago that they're making an Art of Fighting game. Just casually, that it wasn't even a formal announcement. It was just oh yeah, this is something we're doing too. Oh, okay. Now seeing the way City of the Wolves has came about, great game in my opinion, but not, obviously didn't pop off the way it should. Is Art of Fighting, is this something you might still care about? Or is this you've ever cared about Art of Fighting? Or
who under the age of 37 has ever cared about Art of Fighting?
Exactly.
I say that's mean of me, but Art of Fighting's old, dude. That guy's an old ass game,
and that has never been accepted. Fatal Fury had some mainstream appeal. Art of Fighting never has, ever at any point.
Art of Fighting 3 is cool as hell. I like that a lot.
It's
cool. Again, I am really happy to see that they're wanting to make another Art of Fighting game. I do think they need to understand what they're doing, not with the game, but with the game's pedigree, insofar that no one under the age of 37 would fucking care.
Nope. I am freshly 43, baby. I have played some Art of Fighting.
I am under 37, but I'm also a fucking, fighting game loser. So,
yeah. But even you, like, as a fighting game freak, you're still like, Art of Fighting,
it's Art of Fighting 3. That was a million ass years ago.
Yeah.
So, like, interested. Greatly. Don't put an alleged rapist in it, and we might be talking.
It's so simple. Just don't put a rapist. It's a very reasonable request by you, I feel.
Yeah, you know what? I'd love to see an Art of Fighting game. Give me another game with the art, because the Art of Fighting, again, SNK have more characters that they don't use than games wish they could use. Like,
yes.
you could make 9 distinct games out of SNK fighting characters that don't get used. And Art of Fighting has a lot of really cool characters in it.
But that's why Neo Geo Battle Coliseum is so cool. There's like Mudman in there. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they the Mars people are in that. Yeah, they pulled out all the Shiki showed up in a pixel form, because that was the only Shiki was only in Samurai Showdown 64. I think. Yeah. So there was a lot of cuts in Neo Geo Battle Coliseum. That game's cool. That game's really cool.
That game is so fun. When that came out on Xbox Live Arcade, me and Vin played that shit for hours, dude. I love that game.
That game's so fucking cool.
Wow. I didn't think I'd talk for 2 hours about City of the Wolves. Full disclosure, before this started, I was saying to Jay, if we get like 45 minutes, an hour out of this, that's cool. Whatever happens. We have been yapping, and that's great. I'm really glad to have done this with you. So thank you.
Yeah, it kind of went forever, just because every aspect of City of the Wolves is a little thread you pull on, and it's like, what went down here? Like, it's really one of the biggest stories in fighting games, not just fighting game community, but like one of the biggest stories in fighting games in recent history that isn't Street Fighter X came out,
Yeah. For sure, and Street Fighter will always have that mainstream appeal, but
it's the only thing that's like a story insofar that like a dramatic event happened. This is something that, like, of course we talked about it forever, because there's so many different angles to this.
Yeah, and I hope like people who don't like really play fighting games or not really into the scene or know about it really understands like how this stuff works now, because again, I didn't always, like I said, I only know because I hung out around arcades and I knew people who played fighting games like that, right? But not really having done so myself, not as good of a inkling, but had somewhat of an inkling. So that's why I wanted to have you here to talk about that stuff. So thank you very much for doing this with me.
Oh, and thank you for having me on Fine Time.
Fine time.
It's a fine time indeed.
I'm glad you had a fine time. I hope you guys had a fine time. We're gonna wrap it up here. We're gonna get the fuck out of here. Check the description of this podcast to find Jay's links to that video we talked about earlier, plus our social media, and we'll see you next time. Bye.